The blue light of distant stars reflected off the polished surface of the asterisk Star Voyager asterisk as it drifted toward the massive alien station. Commander Jack Miller stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back, watching as the strange structure grew larger on the main screen. "Are you nervous, sir?" asked Susan Wright, the ship's science officer. She stood beside him, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight bun. "Should I be?" Jack replied with a small smile. "We're just the first humans to make official contact with an alliance of alien species. No pressure." Susan laughed, but her eyes showed concern. "The Galactic Confederation has been watching us for decades, according to their messages. I wonder what they really think of us." "We'll find out soon enough," Jack said, as the ship's engines slowed to a stop. The docking procedure went smoothly. Jack selected his team carefully. Susan for her scientific knowledge, Lieutenant Kate Brown for security, and 3 others who represented the best of humanity. They wore their crisp Blue Earth Alliance uniforms with pride as they walked down the ramp into the alien station. The welcoming chamber was huge, with a high ceiling that curved like the inside of an egg. The air smelled different, clean but with a hint of something like cinnamon. 5 different alien species stood waiting for them, arranged in a half circle. The aliens in the center stepped forward. They were the Zeltari, tall, thin beings with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. Their fingers were long and delicate, with an extra joint that humans didn't have. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the lead Zeltari said in perfect English. "I am Zorax, Chief Diplomat of the Confederation. We are pleased to finally meet you face to face." Jack stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for inviting us. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to learn from each other." The meeting room they entered next was filled with strange objects that looked like art pieces. The aliens sat on curved benches that seemed too fragile to hold weight, but when Jack sat down, it was surprisingly strong. For hours they talked about basic things: Earth's history, human culture, and the Confederation's many member species. The aliens seemed most interested in how humans live day to day. They asked many questions about human biology, which Susan answered carefully. "And your planet's gravity is quite strong, correct?" asked a small green alien with 4 arms. "By our standards, it's just normal," Susan replied. "Though I understand many of your worlds have lighter gravity." Zorax nodded. "Most life in our Confederation evolved on worlds with approximately 60 to 70% of Earth's gravitational pull." After the long talks, Zorax invited them to a small ceremony. "It is our custom to share a symbolic drink to mark new friendships," he explained, leading them to a side room where a table held a beautiful crystal object. "This is the Cup of New Beginnings," Zorax said with pride. "It has been used for over 10,000 years to welcome new species. It is carved from a single crystal of Zeltar Prime, one of the hardest materials in the known galaxy." As part of the ceremony, each person was to hold the cup before it was filled. When Susan's turn came, she took the cup carefully, admiring its craftsmanship. There was a sharp crack. Susan froze, her face going pale. In her hands, the ancient cup had split nearly in half. The room went completely silent. The aliens stared at Susan, with expressions ranging from shock to fear. "I barely touched it," Susan whispered, horrified. "I'm so sorry." Zorax's large eyes blinked rapidly. "In 10,000 years, no one has." "How did you?" He couldn't finish his sentence. Jack stepped forward quickly. "We will of course provide any compensation." "No," Zorax interrupted, still staring at the broken cup. "This is most unexpected. Perhaps we should continue our discussions tomorrow. We have much to reconsider." As the humans were escorted back to their ship, they noticed the aliens kept their distance, whispering among themselves and casting strange looks at them. "What just happened back there?" Kate asked quietly. Jack shook his head. "I don't know, but I think we just failed some kind of test. Or passed one they weren't expecting," Susan said, looking down at her hands with new curiosity. The next morning, Dr. Eric Collins and Lieutenant Kate Brown stood in a large white room filled with strange equipment. The Confederation had invited them for what they called a standard biological assessment. 3 Zeltari scientists moved around them, setting up machines and whispering to each other. "Is this normal?" Kate whispered to Eric. Her hand stayed close to her sidearm, though she had been told not to bring weapons. "First contact protocol," Eric replied with a shrug. "We studied their biology from samples they provided. Now it's their turn." Zorax entered the room, followed by 2 other aliens Eric hadn't seen before. One was short with gray skin that looked like stone. The other was tall and thin with 4 arms. "Thank you for agreeing to these tests," Zorax said. "After yesterday's incident, we are most curious about human physiology." The tests started simple. They measured heart rate, body temperature, and took small blood samples. Eric noticed the aliens seemed surprised by every result. "Your blood carries much more oxygen than ours," one scientist said, looking at a screen. "And your muscle density is unusual." Kate was asked to run on a treadmill. After 20 minutes at high speed, she wasn't even breathing hard. "Is something wrong?" she asked when they kept increasing the speed. "No, please continue if you can," Zorax said, his large eyes fixed on her legs as they pumped effortlessly. Next came strength tests. Eric was asked to squeeze a metal device. "Just apply normal pressure," the stone-like alien said. Eric squeezed, and the device cracked. The aliens jumped back. "I barely squeezed it," Eric said, putting the broken pieces down carefully. "That device is made to measure the strongest grip in the Confederation," Zorax explained, his voice shaking slightly. "No one has ever broken it." More tests followed. The humans lifted weights that made the aliens gasp. They held their breath for minutes at a time. When a small cut was made on Eric's arm to test healing, the aliens were amazed at how quickly the bleeding stopped. "You have natural cell regeneration at rates we've only achieved with advanced medicine," the 4-armed scientist said with wonder. During a break, Eric overheard Zorax talking to another alien in the hallway. "It makes no sense," Zorax was saying. "Their planet is not that unusual. How could they evolve such physical capabilities?" "The real question," the other alien replied in a lower voice, "is what would happen if they decided to use that strength against others. A single human could overpower a dozen Zeltari." Eric pretended not to hear, but he felt uneasy. He caught Kate's eye, and she nodded slightly. She had heard it too. The final test involved pain tolerance. The aliens asked if they could expose the humans to increasing heat on their palms. "We will stop at the first sign of discomfort," Zorax promised. Both Kate and Eric agreed. The heat increased gradually. At the point where the aliens said most species would be in severe pain, the humans only felt mild warmth. "Enough for today," Zorax finally said, switching off the machine. "You have given us much to study." As they were escorted back to their quarters, they passed a large viewing window. Through it, they could see a group of muscular aliens with ridged foreheads and sharp teeth watching them. These aliens wore what looked like military uniforms. "Who are they?" Kate asked their guide. "The Dravek," the guide replied nervously. "They are interested in your species." Back in their room, Eric sat heavily on his bed. "Did you notice how they looked at us?" he asked. "Like we were some kind of monsters." Kate nodded slowly. "Or weapons. I don't think they were expecting us to be this strong. The question is, what will they do with that information?" On the other side of the station, Zorax and the Confederation Council were already debating that very question. Sergeant Bill Johnson stood with his arms crossed, looking at the group of Dravek aliens. They were almost as tall as humans, but had thick ridges on their foreheads and sharp teeth that showed when they smiled. Their skin was a deep orange with dark spots. "So you want a competition?" Bill asked, glancing at Commander Jack Miller for approval. Jack nodded slowly. "The Confederation thinks it would help build relationships between our species. They think we tricked them," Susan Wright added quietly. The Dravak don't believe humans are naturally as strong as the tests showed. The lead Dravak, who called himself General Krav, stepped forward. His uniform had many medals and symbols on it. We have prepared a series of challenges, Krav said in a deep, rumbling voice. Fair tests of strength, speed, and endurance. If you accept. Bill looked at his squad of 5 Marines who had been brought over from the Star Voyager. They all nodded eagerly. We accept, Bill said. The first challenge took place in a large room with padded floors. It was simple: lift heavy weights and see who could lift the most. The Dravak went first, their muscles bulging as they lifted metal bars loaded with weights. Their strongest lifted a bar that bent under the strain. When it was Bill's turn, he easily lifted the same weight. The Dravak added more, and still Bill lifted it. They kept adding weights until the bar broke under the pressure. Seems we need stronger equipment, Bill said, trying not to smile at the Dravak's shocked faces. The second challenge was running. The Dravak were fast, their legs pumping as they ran around a track. But the humans kept pace with them lap after lap. After 30 minutes, the Dravak began to slow, their breathing heavy. The humans kept running. How much longer can you continue? Krav asked, watching his warriors struggle. We're just warming up, Bill replied, barely sweating. During the wrestling matches, the difference became even clearer. The Dravak were strong by Confederation standards, but the humans were stronger. Bill pinned his opponent in seconds. Even the smallest human Marine won her match against a Dravak twice her size. This isn't possible, Krav muttered, watching his best warriors defeated. The final challenge was meant to test pain endurance. Each person had to hold a hand in ice water for as long as possible. The Dravak lasted about 2 minutes before pulling their hands out, shaking with pain. When it was Bill's turn, he put his hand in the water and stood there calmly. After 5 minutes, Krav was going to stop the test, but then something unexpected happened. Bill slipped on a wet patch of floor. As he caught himself, they all heard a sharp crack. His arm had broken just above the wrist. Everyone froze. The humans rushed to help, but Bill waved them away with his good hand. I'm fine, he said, his face tight with pain. Let's finish the test. You are injured, Krav said, looking confused. The challenge is over. No, it's not, Bill replied. And to everyone's shock, he put his injured arm back in the ice water. Cold helps with the swelling anyway. For 10 more minutes, Bill stood there with his broken arm in the ice, not making a sound. The Dravak watched in complete silence. When the humans finally returned to their quarters, Jack pulled Bill aside. That was quite a show you put on, he said. How's the arm? Hurts like hell, Bill admitted. But did you see their faces? They went from thinking we were weak to being terrified of us. Later that night, Eric Collins was working in the science lab when Zorax came to see him. Your kind is remarkable, Zorax said quietly. But I must warn you, not everyone in the Confederation sees this as a good thing. The Dravak have called for an emergency council meeting. About what? Eric asked. About whether humans should be classified as a warrior species, Zorax replied. A designation that comes with restrictions. Lisa Garcia sat at the large round table in the Confederation Council chamber. As Earth's diplomat, she had been brought in from another ship to help with the growing tension. On her right sat Captain Sam Taylor from the Star Voyager, his face serious as he listened to the aliens argue. The evidence is clear, a Dravak representative said, standing tall at the speaking platform. Humans possess physical abilities that make them dangerous. They should be classified as a warrior species until we know more about them. Lisa leaned toward Sam. What does warrior species mean? She whispered. Nothing good, Sam replied quietly. From what I understand, it means restricted travel, constant monitoring, and limited technology sharing. Lisa stood up, smoothing her blue uniform. May I speak? She asked. The head of the council, an old Zeltari with pale, wrinkled skin, nodded. "Thank you," Lisa said, her voice calm and clear. "Yes, humans are physically strong by your standards. But strength doesn't equal aggression. Throughout our history, we have used our strength to build, to help, to protect. Judging us only by our physical abilities ignores who we truly are." Many council members nodded, but the Dravak representative laughed. "Pretty words," he said. "But we have studied your history. You have had wars, conquests, violence. Imagine what you could do to less physically capable species." "Every intelligent species has a violent past," Lisa replied. "We have learned from ours. We came here in peace." The debate continued for hours. Lisa noticed that the council was split. The Zeltari and some smaller species seemed to support the humans, while the Dravak and their allies pushed for restrictions. When they finally left the chamber, Sam pulled Lisa into a quiet hallway. "We have a problem," he said, keeping his voice low. "Security around our quarters has doubled, and they're calling it protection. But Ryan from Communications says our messages to Earth are being blocked." Lisa's heart sank. "They're treating us like prisoners already." Meanwhile, in the science lab, Eric Collins worked with a friendly Zeltari scientist named Neri. They had been comparing human and alien DNA for days. "This is strange," Neri said, pointing to a screen showing complex patterns. "There are sequences in human DNA that don't look natural." "What do you mean?" Eric asked, leaning closer. "They're too perfect, too structured," Neri explained, "like they were designed." Eric stared at the screen. "Are you saying humans were engineered?" "I don't know," Neri admitted, "but these patterns match ancient records we found on abandoned worlds. Records from a civilization that disappeared 50,000 years ago." Before Eric could ask more questions, the door slid open. 2 Dravak security officers entered. "The council requires your presence," one said flatly. When Eric arrived at the meeting room, he found the entire human delegation already there. Captain Sam looked angry. "What's happening?" Eric asked, sitting next to Kate Brown. "They voted to quarantine Earth," Kate whispered. "No ships in or out until they properly assess the human threat level." Commander Jack stood up, facing the alien representatives. "This is unacceptable. We came here in good faith. This is for everyone's safety," the Dravak representative said, "including yours." Some council members suggested more permanent solutions. A chill went through the room. "You're talking about our entire planet," Jack said, his voice hard. "Billions of innocent people. Who could one day spread across the galaxy?" The Dravak replied. "With your physical advantages, you could dominate other species within a few generations." As the meeting ended, the humans gathered in a corner. "We need to warn Earth," Sam said quietly. "And I think we need to prepare for the possibility that we're not guests anymore." Lisa looked around at the guards watching them. "We're hostages," she said. Jack nodded slowly. "And we need to find a way out before this gets worse. Because I don't think the Dravak plan to just keep us here forever." Maya Rodriguez walked beside the small green alien named Trill as they toured the mining facility. As the engineer from the Star Voyager, she had been invited to see how the Confederation extracted rare minerals from asteroids. Commander Jack had asked her to go, hoping it might help improve relations. "This is our main processing center," Trill explained, leading Maya into a huge chamber filled with strange machines. Several different types of aliens worked at control panels. Maya noticed the ceiling was supported by glowing blue beams. "What are those made of?" she asked. "Energy fields," Trill said. "Much stronger than physical supports, and they can be adjusted as needed." As they walked further into the facility, Maya heard a strange sound, a low, groaning noise coming from somewhere in the walls. "Is that normal?" she asked, pointing to a section where the wall seemed to be bulging slightly. Trill's eyes widened. "No, that's not." A loud crack interrupted him. One of the energy beams flickered and died. The ceiling above it started to sag. "Emergency," Trill shouted into a communication device. Section 4, Structural Failure. Aliens ran in all directions, some toward emergency stations, others toward exits. Maya watched as the ceiling sagged lower. Directly beneath it, 3 small aliens worked frantically at a control panel, trying to restart the energy beam. Without thinking, Maya ran forward. Just as the ceiling section broke free, she got under it and pushed up with all her strength. The heavy metal pressed down on her shoulders and arms, but she held it up. "Get out," she shouted to the 3 aliens, who stared at her in shock. "I can't hold this forever." The aliens scrambled away just as more humans arrived. Bill and his Marines had been nearby when the alarm sounded. They rushed to help Maya, adding their strength to hers. "We need to secure this section," Bill said, straining under the weight. The whole facility could collapse. More alarms blared, and red lights flashed. A voice announced, "Toxic gas leak detected. All personnel evacuate immediately." The aliens began running toward the exits, many already coughing and struggling to breathe. The atmosphere was turning a sickly yellow color. "Get to safety," Maya told the other humans. "I'll hold this until everyone's out." "Not a chance," Bill replied. "We stay together." For 20 minutes, the humans held up the collapsing ceiling while toxic gas swirled around them. They coughed and their eyes watered, but they didn't let go. Their muscles burned with effort, but they kept pushing. Finally, alien rescue teams arrived wearing protective suits. They stared in disbelief at the humans, still standing, still holding the heavy ceiling. "How are you alive?" one rescuer asked. "That gas should have knocked you unconscious in minutes." "We're just stubborn," Bill replied through gritted teeth. Once emergency beams were in place, the humans finally let go. They were led to a medical bay where doctors examined them with growing amazement. "Your lung tissue should be severely damaged," a doctor told Maya, "but it's already repairing itself." News of the incident spread quickly through the station. That evening, Zorax visited the humans in their quarters. "You saved many lives today," he said. "The Council is reconsidering some things." "Like whether we're dangerous?" Jack asked. "Some now argue you could be valuable allies," Zorax replied. "But others are even more afraid. If you can survive conditions that would kill most species, if you are this strong and difficult to harm, they see us as even more dangerous," Lisa finished for him. Zorax nodded sadly. "The Dravak delegation has increased security around you. They call it protection, but it's not for our safety," Sam said. "It's for yours." Later that night, Ryan Murphy, the communications specialist, quietly approached Jack. "Sir," he whispered, "I've been monitoring Confederation channels. I picked up something you need to hear." "What is it?" Jack asked. Ryan's face was pale. "Some of them are planning to attack Earth while we're away. They think humanity is too dangerous to be allowed to develop further, and they want to strike before we can warn our planet." Ryan Murphy sat in the small communications room attached to the human quarters. His fingers moved quickly over the alien console as he showed Captain Sam Taylor what he had found. "I intercepted these messages last night," Ryan said, pointing to strange symbols on the screen. "It took me hours to decode them, but they're definitely talking about Earth." Sam leaned closer, his face grim. "Can you play it for me?" Ryan nodded and pressed a button. A voice spoke in an alien language, then the computer translated it to English. "The human homeworld must be contained before they develop further space capabilities," the voice said. "Their physical advantages make them a future threat to the entire Confederation. The Council is divided, but those who understand the danger are prepared to act." "Which species sent this?" Sam asked. "The Dravak," Ryan replied. "But there were responses from 3 other species agreeing with them. They're forming a coalition." Sam straightened up. "We need to warn Earth immediately." "That's the problem," Ryan said, lowering his voice. "All our communications are being monitored. Any direct message would be blocked." At that moment, Commander Jack and Lisa entered the room. We have another problem, Lisa said. The Dravak have requested we attend a cultural exchange on their ship tomorrow. I think they're trying to separate us from the Star Voyager. Jack nodded. I agree. We need to get back to our ship and leave, with or without permission. And go where? Sam asked. We're deep in Confederation space. Anywhere but here, Jack replied. At least on our ship we have a chance. Meanwhile, in the science lab, Eric Collins was working late with Neri, the friendly Zultari scientist. They had made a breakthrough in their research. These genetic markers, Neri said, pointing to the screen, they match ancient weapons developed during the Great War. Weapons? Eric asked, confused. Neri looked nervous. Bioweapons, living weapons. The ancient records speak of warriors created to fight in conditions no natural species could survive. Eric felt cold. You're saying humans were designed as weapons? As warriors, Neri corrected. The records say they were abandoned on a distant world when the war ended. That world could have been Earth. Eric sat back, trying to process this information. Does the Council know this? Some suspect it, Neri admitted. The Dravak almost certainly do. It would explain their fear. Just then, the door slid open and Zorax rushed in. You need to leave, he told Eric urgently. Now, the Dravak have convinced the Council to place all humans in stasis until a final decision is made about Earth. Stasis? Eric asked, standing up. You mean freeze us? For your safety, they claim, Zorax said. But I fear once you are helpless. Eric didn't wait to hear more. He thanked Zorax and ran back to the human quarters. When he arrived, the others were already making plans. We need to get to the Star Voyager, Jack was saying, but they've increased security in the docking bay. And they're watching all the main corridors, Kate added. Eric quickly told them what he had learned about human origins and the Dravak's new plan to put them in stasis. So that's why they fear us, Lisa said quietly. They think we were created as weapons. Maybe we were, Sam said, but that doesn't change who we are now or what they're planning to do to Earth. Jack looked around at their faces. We need to move tonight. Security Chief Paul Martinez has been studying their patrol patterns. We'll have a small window around midnight when the shift changes. And once we reach the Star Voyager, Maya asked. We fight our way out if necessary, Jack replied. And then we head for Earth at maximum speed to warn them. Ryan raised his hand. There's one more thing. I picked up another transmission. The Dravak fleet is already mobilizing. We may be too late. The station lights dimmed to night mode as Chief Paul Martinez led the human group through a narrow maintenance tunnel. His years of security training made him perfect for planning their escape. The Dravak guards changed shifts in 3 minutes, Paul whispered, checking a small device he had modified to track alien movements. We'll have exactly 2 minutes to cross the main hall before the next patrol arrives. The humans moved silently, staying close to the walls. Captain Sam had insisted they take no weapons. They wouldn't hurt anyone unless absolutely necessary. When they reached the end of the tunnel, Paul held up his hand for everyone to stop. Through a small gap, they could see 4 Dravak guards standing in the main hall. Wait for it, Paul said softly, watching the guards. They always leave exactly on time. Sure enough, after a minute, the guards checked their devices and walked away. Paul counted to 10, then opened the hidden door. Now, he ordered. Move fast, but stay quiet. The humans rushed across the open space, their footsteps barely making a sound. They were halfway to the next tunnel when alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. They've discovered we're missing, Jack said. Run. They abandoned stealth and sprinted toward the docking bay where the Star Voyager waited. Behind them, they heard shouts and the sound of many feet running. When they reached the docking bay doors, they found them sealed shut. I can override this, Maya said, quickly opening a panel beside the door. Her fingers worked fast on the alien technology. Just give me a minute. We don't have a minute, Kate said, looking back down the corridor where shadows were approaching. Then make one, Bill replied, stepping forward with his Marines. They formed a line across the corridor, ready to fight. The first group of Dravak security forces rounded the corner and stopped in surprise when they saw the humans standing their ground. There were at least 20 of them, all armed with stunning weapons. "Return to your quarters immediately," the lead Dravak ordered. "This is your only warning." "We're leaving," Jack called back. "We mean no harm, but we will defend ourselves." The Dravak leader laughed. "You are outnumbered and unarmed. Surrender now." In response, Bill simply walked forward. The Dravak fired their weapons. Bill flinched as the stunning energy hit him, but kept walking. The aliens fired again and again, but Bill and his Marines kept advancing, pushing through the pain. The Dravak backed away in shock. They had never seen any species resist their stun weapons this way. "Got it," Maya shouted as the docking bay doors slid open. Most of the humans rushed through, but Lisa Garcia and Eric Collins stayed behind. "What are you doing?" Jack asked them. "We need to go." "Someone needs to stay," Lisa said firmly. "To keep talking, to try for peace. I'm a diplomat. This is my job. And I need to continue the research with Neri," Eric added. "What we've discovered about human origins could change everything." Jack wanted to argue, but there was no time. More security forces were arriving from other corridors. "We'll come back for you," he promised. The rest of the humans raced to the Star Voyager. As they reached the ship, Ryan shouted in pain and fell. A Dravak stun blast had finally broken through Bill's defensive line. "Leave me," Ryan gasped as Kate tried to help him up. "Get to the ship." "Not happening," Kate said, lifting Ryan over her shoulder like he weighed nothing. She ran up the ramp into the ship, the last one aboard. Captain Sam rushed to the bridge and started the launch sequence while Jack sealed the doors. "Can we break free from the docking clamps?" Jack asked. Sam's hands flew over the controls. "We'll have to. Hang on to something." The Star Voyager's engines roared to life, straining against the docking clamps that held it in place. Metal screamed and tore as the ship pulled free. "We're loose," Sam shouted. "But we've got company." On the screens, they could see Confederation ships moving to block their escape. The Star Voyager shook as it dodged between alien ships trying to block its escape. Captain Sam's hands moved quickly over the controls, pushing the ship to its limits. "We can't outrun them all," he said grimly. "Their fastest ships are already moving to cut us off." On the main screen, they could see 5 Confederation warships forming a line ahead of them. Behind, and to the sides, more ships were closing in. "Can we jump to faster than light speed?" Jack asked. Sam shook his head. "Not until we're clear of the station's gravity field. We need at least 10 more minutes at this speed." "We don't have 10 minutes, Kate said, pointing to the screen where the warships were powering up their weapons. Ryan, still recovering from the stun blast, limped onto the bridge. "Sir, I'm picking up a strange transmission. It's directed at the Confederation ships, not us." "Put it through," Jack ordered. A familiar voice filled the bridge. It was Zorax, the Zeltari diplomat. "This is Chief Diplomat Zorax to all Confederation vessels. Stand down immediately. The humans are under Zeltari protection." Everyone on the bridge looked at each other in surprise. "What does that mean?" Maya asked. They got their answer moments later when 3 sleek silver ships appeared from behind the station. They were unlike any vessels they had seen before, clearly more advanced than standard Confederation ships. "Zeltari defense ships," Sam said, amazed. "I didn't know they had military vessels." The Zeltari ships positioned themselves between the Star Voyager and the Confederation blockade. "All vessels will stand down," Zorax's voice commanded. "The full Zeltari Council has reviewed the evidence and made its decision. Humans are not to be harmed." For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Confederation ships powered down their weapons. A new signal came through to the Star Voyager. Commander Miller, this is Zorax. Please respond. Jack activated the communications. This is Miller. Thank you for your help, but why are you doing this? Request permission to come aboard and explain. Zorax replied. After Zorax's shuttle docked with the Star Voyager, he was escorted to the conference room. To everyone's surprise, Neri was with him, along with Lisa and Eric. Your friends convinced us to look deeper into our ancient records, Zorax explained. What we found changed everything. Neri stepped forward. Humans weren't just created as warriors, she said. You were created as protectors. She activated a small device that projected images in the air, ancient text and diagrams. The species that engineered humans did so at the end of a devastating war, Neri continued. They didn't want more soldiers. They wanted guardians for the younger races that were just beginning to evolve. Your combination of physical strength and moral capacity was intentional, Zorax added. You were designed to be strong enough to fight when necessary, but compassionate enough to know when not to. What happened to these creators? Jack asked. They disappeared, Neri said. The records suggest they were dying out from a genetic disease. Creating humans may have been their final act before extinction. Lisa smiled. When I told the council how Maya and the others risked their lives to save aliens during the mining accident, it confirmed what Neri had discovered. The Dravak and their allies still fear you, Zorax admitted. But many more species now see humans as potential protectors, not conquerors. What about Earth? Sam asked. Is it safe? The attack has been called off, Zorax assured them. And the Zelteri have formally requested an alliance with Earth. We believe it is time for humans to take their place in the galaxy, the place they were always meant to have. Jack looked around at his crew. At Bill's determined face, Maya's kind eyes, Kate's steady presence, and Ryan's curious expression. So what happens now? He asked. Now, Zorax said with a smile, we begin again. Not as strangers who fear each other's differences, but as allies who value them. As the Star Voyager turned back toward the station, Jack looked out at the stars. Humans are strong, he said quietly, but maybe our real strength isn't in our muscles after all. No, Lisa agreed. It's in knowing when to use that strength and when to show restraint.